Reckless dares, tragic missteps, or horrific acts. No matter the case, these stories reveal how the most innocuous objects can cause the biggest tragedies. Join us and discover how these lives ended in the most unexpected ways. One afternoon in May 2015, Wang Xiufeng, 47, and her 16-year-old daughter Lily Kaw Li-ling embarked on what should have been an ordinary drive to pick up Wang's other children from school. The family lived in a tranquil neighborhood in Ma On Shan, Hong Kong. But things at home weren't as tranquil. Their family dynamic was increasingly strained, especially between Wang and her husband, Kaw Kim-sun. That day, mother and daughter left their home in Wang's yellow Mini Cooper to pick up Lily's siblings from school. The family helper saw them leave around 2 p.m., heading down Sai Sha Road. Their journey should have been a brief one, just a 1.6-kilometer trip to the bus terminal. At 2:14 p.m., Lily sent a lighthearted text to a friend joking about school. This would be the last message she ever sent. 30 minutes later, a jogger came across their parked car at a bus stop. Inside the car, Wang and her daughter were slumped and unresponsive. Emergency responders rushed them to Prince of Wales Hospital, but it was too late. Both Wang and Lily were declared dead, victims of severe carbon monoxide poisoning. Investigators were at a loss. They knew the mother and daughter had died due to lethal gas exposure, but the car itself was in pristine condition. It presented no defects. Hong Kong police, with assistance from Bavarian Motorworks engineers in Germany, thoroughly examined the Mini Cooper's ventilation system. When every avenue failed to explain the gas source, the case stalled. It wasn't until months later that the puzzle pieces started to fit, only because of a seemingly innocuous detail: a deflated gray yoga ball in the car's boot, conspicuously missing its stopper. The simple question of why it lacked a plug opened the door to one of Hong Kong's most chilling murder cases. Detectives learned that Wang's estranged husband, Kaw Kim-sun, was a respected associate professor of anesthesiology. The man was, by all accounts, brilliant, but his personal life was deeply troubled. Kaw was having an affair with a younger student and had grown distant from Wang, his wife. They remained together solely for the sake of their children, but the relationship had devolved into what was described as a business partnership. In truth, Kaw wanted his life out of the picture. Police found a paper trail connecting Kaw to carbon monoxide procurement. Under the guise of research, he had requested the gas for experiments at his university and later taken it home. As time passed, the investigations revealed the full depravity of his plan. A colleague testified that Kaw had asked him to assist in experiments involving carbon monoxide. On one occasion, the colleague saw Kaw filling 2 yoga balls with gas, one of which was later identified as the ball found in Wang's car. Experts confirmed that such balls could carry and slowly release carbon monoxide if left unplugged, creating a fatal environment in an enclosed space like a car. Confronted with mounting evidence, Kaw denied involvement in his wife and daughter's deaths. He claimed he had taken the gas home to deal with a rodent problem and suggested the yoga ball might have been misused by Lily to kill insects. The defense further argued that Kaw had an alibi, as he had left home for a seminar hours before the incident. Prosecutors countered that the yoga ball, planted earlier, could still maintain lethal gas concentrations for hours. Tests showed the concentration of carbon monoxide inside the Mini Cooper reached at least 7,000 parts per million, enough to incapacitate and kill within minutes. Kaw's trial began in 2017. Prosecutors painted a picture of a calculated and deliberate murder, motivated by Kaw's desire to end his unhappy marriage. The deaths, they argued, would allow him to inherit jointly owned properties and fully pursue his affair. While the motive for killing Wang seemed clear, Lily's death raised haunting questions, with some evidence suggesting Kaw had asked Lily to stay home that day. Friends and family described Kaw's close bond with his daughter, leading some to speculate that her death might have been unintended collateral damage. The jury found Kaw guilty of murder in 2018, and he was sentenced to life imprisonment. The case, dubbed the Yoga Ball murder, became infamous not only for its macabre ingenuity, but also for its deep emotional tragedy. Wang's other children, now left without their mother and sister, faced an unimaginable loss. For Wang and Lily, what should have been an ordinary drive turned into a fatal trap, orchestrated by someone they trusted most. Wong Xiu-fing is remembered as a caring mother who devoted her life to her children. Lily was a spirited, lively teenager whose life was cut way too short. It was 1989, and a man called Death Wish was about to prove why he deserved the nickname. At 23 years old, Death Wish was a Scottish painter with a penchant for dangerous and reckless stunts. The young man would often engage in outrageous behavior, the kind of activities that most of us would never dream of doing. His real name is lost, or perhaps it was never made public. But his exploits were infamous among friends and locals. Known for smashing glasses on his head, swallowing sharp objects like keys and glass, and performing life-threatening tricks, he was described by police as being of good health physically but of low intellect. It was a harsh description, maybe, but it was this combination of durability and recklessness that turned him into a figure of morbid fascination. Among his extensive repertoire of mind-boggling stunts, one stood out, swallowing and regurgitating a pool ball. One fateful night in 1989, Death Wish spent hours drinking heavily at a local pub. After closing time, the publican decided to defy legal closing hours and readmitted Death Wish and his friends, allowing them to continue drinking long after others had left. But as the evening stretched on, the painter turned to his signature stunt, a performance that his companions had seen many times before. The act involved maneuvering a pool ball to the back of his throat, holding it there briefly, and then regurgitating it. It had become a party trick, one that amused his friends. Maybe it was the young man's way to increase his social standing. This time, however, he opted for a white cue ball instead of a standard-colored pool ball. The difference was subtle but significant. The cue ball, used in billiards games, measures 4.75 centimeters in diameter, slightly smaller than the 5.03 centimeters of a standard pool ball. Though this size difference appears negligible, it drastically reduces the ball's volume, making it the perfect size to become lodged in the throat. Unbeknownst to Death Wish, the cue ball was a catastrophic choice. He placed the ball in his mouth and began the familiar process. This time, however, he quickly showed signs of distress. Panicked, he ran out of the pub and into the street. His collapse was sudden and horrifying. His face turned blue as he struggled for air, the ball wedged firmly in his pharynx. His friends tried to help, managing to get their hands into his mouth, but the ball would not budge. Moments later, an ambulance arrived. The medical team attempted to insert an airway tube to restore breathing, but the blockage was too severe. Within 15 minutes of swallowing the cue ball, the young man succumbed to suffocation. The ambulance crew pronounced him dead at the scene. A post-mortem examination revealed the precise cause of death. The cue ball was lodged so tightly in his throat that it completely obstructed his airway. The reduced diameter and volume of the cue ball, compared to standard pool balls, created the perfect conditions for such an obstruction, turning an otherwise survivable stunt into a fatal miscalculation. While Death Wish's tricks had once made him a figure of dark humor, his death serves as a grim reminder of the thin line between bravado and tragedy. Today, his story lives on as a cautionary tale of the fatal consequences of reckless risk-taking. In 2013, Sida Osman was a 5-year-old boy born to Somali refugee parents in Fort Worth, Texas. Though his family had fled violence and instability in Somalia, Sida's life in the United States was filled with hope. He was set to begin kindergarten in the fall and lived in a close-knit community of Somali families who supported one another. Sida would often spend his days riding his bike and playing with neighborhood children near their apartment complex. One June evening at about 6 p.m., Sida's mother called for him to come home. The little boy, eager to continue his adventures, hopped on his bike and pedaled away. Hours later, however, Sida had still not come home. Overcome by worry, his parents reported him missing at 10:30 p.m., prompting a massive search effort. Police, aided by K-9 units, helicopters, and mounted officers, scoured the neighborhood throughout the night. Despite their efforts, there was no trace of the little boy. Sida remained missing. The next day, at approximately 1 p.m., a passerby made a grim discovery. The lifeless body of the little boy was found under a tree in the backyard of a vacant house just a block from where Sida lived. The Tarrant County medical examiner determined the cause of death to be blunt force trauma to the head. The tragedy sent shockwaves through the Somali community, which gathered to mourn Sida's death and demand justice and answers. It didn't take long for investigators to find their prime suspect, a 13-year-old boy from the same neighborhood. Witnesses reported seeing Sida with the teen in the backyard of the vacant house shortly before his disappearance. The teen, whose name remains withheld due to his age, had a history of violent and erratic behavior. He was known as a troublemaker who had been involved in theft, physical altercations, and even threats of violence. His father had left the family and the teen had remained in the care of his mother. But, sources claimed, the teen was physically abusive even towards his mother. According to police, the teenager became irritated with Sida, who had been persistently asking to be taken to the store. In a fit of rage, the teen used a 14-pound bowling ball to strike Sida in the head, describing the act as like spiking a football. When Sida fell, the teen allegedly straddled him and struck him a second time, fatally injuring the child. Shockingly, the teen later showed Sida's body to 3 friends who pleaded with him to call for help, but he refused. Hours after the murder, the teen even lied to Sida's mother when she asked if he had seen her son. The teenager's violent tendencies were well documented. Rick Stokes, founder of the Stokes Christian Boys' Home, described him as filled with rage and anger. His mother struggled to control his behavior despite seeking help and medication. The aftermath of Sida's death was marked by profound grief and a search for answers. Sida's family struggled to comprehend why anyone would harm their innocent child. The Somali community mourned collectively, their sorrow filling the courtroom as the case unfolded. The teen eventually pleaded guilty to capital murder, accepting a plea deal that sentenced him to 23 years in prison. During his sentencing, he tearfully addressed the Osman family, expressing remorse for his actions. Despite his apology, the devastating loss of Sida left an irreplaceable void in the lives of those who knew him. Sida's death also highlighted systemic failures. The teen's mental health struggles had led to repeated institutionalizations, but long-term solutions remained out of reach. His mother's attempts to seek help were met with temporary fixes that proved insufficient in the long run. For Sida's family, the grief remains an enduring reality. A vibrant life full of promise was cut tragically short, leaving a community to grapple with the senselessness of his loss. It was November 8, 2021, and Harry Byrne from Kilkenny, Ireland, was at school. At 13 years old, Harry was a bright-spirited teenager with an unwavering love for sports, particularly hurling. Known for his infectious smile and kind-hearted nature, Harry was described by family and friends as a standout young man. His dedication to hurling, a game deeply ingrained in his community, was evident in his many achievements. Harry had recently won 2 under-13 county championships and had been called for trials with the Kilkenny County Development Squad, a significant honor for the young athlete and his family. That November afternoon, though, things took a devastating turn for the 13-year-old. It was lunch break at St. Kieran's College in Kilkenny. Harry Byrne was playing hurling with friends, enjoying the sport he loved, when tragedy struck. A sliotar, a hard leather ball used in hurling, hit Harry in the throat. At first, the boy said he felt fine, though he did have a headache. Then, in a matter of moments, he collapsed. A supervising teacher, Simon Reedy, was alerted by one of the boys and rushed to the scene. Harry was found about 20 yards behind the goalpost, lying in the recovery position, surrounded by a group of his classmates. Emergency services were called, and Harry was rushed to St. Luke's General Hospital in Kilkenny. Despite being transferred to a hospital in Dublin for further treatment, he succumbed to his injuries the following day, leaving his family, friends, and community in profound grief. The post-mortem examination revealed the extent of the damage caused by the sliotar. The impact caused a catastrophic injury, tearing an artery in his neck and leading to fatal internal bleeding in his brain. The tear in Harry's carotid artery, a vital blood vessel supplying the brain, was deemed a freak injury, extremely rare and devastating. Kilkenny County Coroner Tim Keeley emphasized during the inquest that even if Harry had been wearing a helmet, it would not have prevented his death given the nature and location of the injury. The whole community felt the impact of Harry's loss. Tributes poured in from across Ireland, with countless messages expressing sorrow and support for his grieving family. Harry's parents, Fergal and Annette, along with his siblings Jake, Amy, and Sam, described him as a boy with a heart of gold. His local Gaelic Athletic Association club, Young Irelands, remembered him as a talented and passionate player who was loved by all. Kilkenny Rugby Football Club, where Harry played rugby, echoed these sentiments, calling him a fantastic young boy with a larger-than-life character. Hundreds of mourners gathered at his funeral to pay their respects, including classmates, teammates, and representatives from numerous sports organizations. Harry's coffin, adorned with his Young Ireland's jersey, was carried into the church amidst a guard of honor formed by his schoolmates and sports friends. Parish priest Father Patrick Dalton spoke movingly during the Requiem Mass, reflecting on the enormity of the loss. He said that when someone so young died unexpectedly, there were no words to ease the pain. Harry Burns' passing is all the more tragic given his young age. Even more, his death is a reminder of life's fragility and the unpredictable risks inherent in even the most ordinary activities. But Harry's memory endures. Linda Goldblum, a 79-year-old grandmother of 7 and devoted Dodgers fan, was a lively woman, full of joy. Celebrating her recent birthday and 59th wedding anniversary with her husband Irwin, Linda had always cherished the simple pleasures of life, family, love, and baseball. A longtime Dodgers season ticket holder, she shared countless moments at the stadium with Irwin, their dates often spent cheering from the low level. That summer evening on August 25, 2018 was supposed to be no different. That night, the Dodgers faced the San Diego Padres in a close contest. Linda, accompanied by Irwin, his brother Michael, and sister-in-law Eve, had the perfect seats, third-row loge level, slightly to the first base side of home plate. She wore Dodgers blue, cheered enthusiastically, and soaked in the atmosphere as the game stretched into the 9th inning. The excitement mirrored her passion for the team she had loved for decades. But as the final inning began, tragedy struck. In the top of the 9th inning, Padres batter Franmil Reyes fouled off a pitch from Dodgers closer Kenley Jansen. The ball shot backward with terrifying speed, a white blur that cleared the protective netting and struck Linda on the right side of her head. Witnesses described it as a bolt of lightning, giving no time for reaction. The impact was so severe that the ball ricocheted to the row above and then bounced off Michael's chest before settling several rows away. Linda immediately slumped in her seat, prompting Irwin, who was sitting beside her, to lean over in alarm. He asked if she was okay, but her brief response that she was not would be the last words she ever spoke. Ushers quickly arrived and emergency medical technicians rushed her to Los Angeles County University of Southern California Medical Center. In the ambulance, Linda vomited, a sign of the catastrophic injury she had sustained. Emergency surgery was performed to relieve pressure on her brain, but she never regained consciousness. For 3 days, she remained on a ventilator, unresponsive except for a fleeting movement of her finger when asked her name. On August 28th, her family gathered by her side, sharing memories and saying goodbye before fulfilling her wishes not to be kept alive by machines. Linda Goldblum passed away the next morning. The coroner's report listed the cause of death as acute intracranial hemorrhage due to a history of blunt force trauma from the batted ball. Despite the magnitude of the tragedy, the incident received no media coverage at the time. The moment the ball struck, Linda was not televised, and the Dodgers made no public acknowledgement until pressed by Entertainment and Sports Programming Network 6 months later. Their brief statement expressed condolences and revealed that the matter had been resolved with the Goldblum family. No further details were provided. For Irwin and his family, the aftermath was a mixture of profound grief and frustration. Although the family chose not to pursue legal action due to the baseball rule protecting teams from liability for foul ball injuries, they remained determined to prevent similar accidents. Linda's daughter, Jana Brody, advocated publicly for expanded and heightened protective netting at Major League Baseball stadiums. At the time of Linda's death, Major League Baseball had recently recommended extending netting to the far ends of the dugouts, but it was not enough. Spurred by public outcry and advocacy from families like the Goldblums, teams across the league began further increasing netting height and coverage. A year after the tragedy, the Dodgers raised their netting by 8 feet, a small but meaningful step toward ensuring fan safety. Linda Goldblum's death was only the second fatality from a foul ball in Major League Baseball history, following the 1970 death of 14-year-old Alan Fish, also at Dodger Stadium.